Tonight, as you lay your head on your familiar comforting pillow, imagine doing so on a not-so-comforting pillow, in a prison cell, year after year after year, for a murder that you didn't commit. When those great gates slam behind you, you become a non-person, with no easy access to a phone or the people you love or friends or any professional help. In that, your new terrifying world, nobody gives a damn about you. Except maybe someone at Inside Justice. John Camara was convicted in 1981 for a murder he did not commit. His fight to have his conviction quashed took 19 years.
Today, the appeal court judges quashed John Camara's conviction for murder.
John left prison with only sacks of his trial papers and a travel warrant for £46.
Now then, John Camara, the Toxteth man who served a 19-year prison sentence for a murder he didn't commit back home in Liverpool. He joins me now in the studio, along with the man who said he accepts his innocence, John Suffield Sr., father of the murdered man. Now, thank you both for coming in and joining. It's the first time you've met, actually. Just now you shook hands. Are there strange feelings, John?
Very, very strange feelings for me. And it's nice to meet you for the first time, John. Congratulations on the result of the appeal last week.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, this is a man who you thought had murdered your son, John.
Yes, this is the man.
Turnaround.
This is the man that I thought murdered my son. And I think anybody who sat through the appeal last week would come away convinced of John Camara's innocence. I am aware that John Camara's mother died, and I feel for her that she never lived to see her son released from prison.
Were you allowed out? Did you go to her funeral?
No, I was refused.
Do you feel bitter about that? Because you're not saying, you're obviously upset.
Oh, yeah.
John is now the proud father of 2 boys.
I would say the lowest point is when you're convicted and all the doors are closed and you've got to find that person or the organisation to take on your case and to believe you.
This is the advisory panel of Inside Justice, a unique team of experts, all at the top of their professions, who work without payment.
The advisory panel comprises forensic experts, people with legal expertise and police investigators. So we formulate a forensic strategy and pull all those areas of expertise together, as one would if you were pursuing a fresh case or a cold case, in order to work out how you get that investigation to where it needs to be. So if it was me, I obviously pull together the forensic strategy and have an expert, for example, in DNA profiling or specialist DNA techniques, blood pattern analysis, fibre examination, and then once we've got all those together, we put those pieces of evidence together in order to get the job done.
I represented a man who was convicted of murder. We, the defence team, had a real sense of unease about that verdict, and of course we were going to appeal. A colleague of mine introduced me to Inside Justice, and it was the organisation that we were looking for. At the end of a trial, there is no legal aid. There are no resources. The process is really finished. And to uncover information that couldn't be uncovered at trial, it's very difficult to do so without the money. And Inside Justice provided us with the funding that was needed, that was so necessary to obtain that vital information. And without Inside Justice, we really could not have done it.
Another of our cases is that of a man convicted of drug importation, which he strenuously denies.
When my dad was first found guilty and sentenced to 19 years in prison, we didn't know what to do. For us, when Inside Justice actually took over my dad's case, it was like a breath of fresh air after the despair that we'd felt before.
3 members of the advisory panel and the casework team had prepared for the appeal.
For my dad, it's meant absolutely everything. Because they're a charity, we didn't have to pay anything. You know, my dad was 54 years old when he was convicted, and it's the rest of his life. He's not going to be around to see his grandchildren grow up. He missed my brother's wedding. Our mum passed away while he's been in prison for something that he hasn't done. We've been granted leave to appeal, which I really didn't think that it didn't sound like it was going to go that way. So literally when they said they were accepting it and it was going to go to the full court, I just burst into tears. And me and my grandma did, and you, yeah, we were all crying, because like, you don't realise how much these things mean to us, and we know that without Inside Justice's help we would not be in this position.
Louise Shorter, a former television producer who investigated wrongful convictions for the BBC, founded the charity in 2010.
The last case I worked on at the BBC was of a young man called Barry White. Barry had been convicted of murdering his girlfriend. He'd always protested his innocence, and we worked hard to find that new evidence that got the conviction quashed. It took 8 years for the criminal justice system to catch up and to deal with that at appeal, but he was ultimately freed, and by that stage I'd set up the charity Inside Justice.
When this case came in, I was working for a private laboratory on a specialist cold case team, so we were doing lots of re-investigations. But this case really leapt out at me because I knew about it from the advisory panel, so immediately it leapt off the page. I was super excited about it, but lots of credit to the original force, because the convictions having been overturned, they were re-investigating it like a new case. So we got the team together, specialist DNA advisors, got the original exhibits that had been well preserved, re-investigated, had a strategy, got some fantastic DNA results from it, searched on the database, got a hit, and then that led to the conviction of the real killer.
After 13 years, Barry White's torment ended in 2013 when Shahid al-Ahmed was convicted. The jailing of an innocent man had left Ahmed free to harm others. In 2010, Roger Kearney was convicted on circumstantial evidence of murdering his lover. By the time the case came to Inside Justice, science had progressed.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for being here, everybody. So our advisory panel meeting this afternoon is to look specifically at the case of Roger Kearney.
Swabs and samples tested now could objectively identify the killer.
So these tape-ins were taken for the purpose of looking for fibres.
But obviously, if you stick a tape onto something and take it off, then you don't just pick up fibres with it, you'll pick up biological material, potentially.
DNA?
Yeah.
So that DNA from the perpetrator is actually still happily sitting on those tapings.
Inside Justice negotiated the disclosure of material, which advisory panel member Dr. Anne Priston will review.
Good luck. Yes. Hope you find your answers. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks very much.
Bye-bye.
It is a cold day in Birmingham, but it's an exciting day because we've finally got access to the forensic files from the time.
So Anne, have you been able to find out any information about the one-to-one tapings?
They've been destroyed.
So those original tapings, the one that we were sort of calling the eyewitness, if you like, the person who actually put they've been destroyed?
They seem to have been destroyed.
And in a murder case?
They've definitely gone.
That experience was absolutely devastating for Roger Kearney and our investigation, because it meant that the evidence which could show objectively whether he was truly innocent as he claimed had been destroyed.
When our casework identifies such systemic failings, we take action to bring change for all.
The gold standard for exhibits handling is security, continuity and integrity of exhibits, from the time it's seized through to storage, court presentation and retention after conviction. So what we're trying to do here at Inside Justice is we're going to raise awareness with police forces in England and Wales to make sure that there's consistency and that these measures are adhered to. This is important on a number of levels. It will convict the right people, hopefully. It will exonerate the innocents and make it definitely in the wider interests of justice. And once evidence is lost, it's lost forever.
Inside Justice travels a rocky, lonely road, difficult to fund, but vital. So we need your support with any help that you can give us. If you have a case about which you have a nagging worry, or indeed a case that you know has gone badly wrong, tell us about it. You know, all of our clients say the same thing. I never imagined that in this country such a thing could possibly happen to me. But it did. It can happen to anyone. It could happen to you. So if you do find yourself in prison for something you didn't do, you would want Inside Justice to lend a supporting arm. So please, please, help us to help the locked up and forgotten.